Okay, let's unpack
Let's
this.
do it.
We are about to do a deep dive into an institution that hasn't just witnessed history, but for what, over 2.5 centuries, has literally been setting the price of history itself.
Christie's, the legendary British auction house.
Exactly.
And it's more than just an auction house. It's really this deep intersection of global wealth, cultural heritage, and as our sources show, a fair bit of controversy.
Oh, absolutely. It's where art, history, and just billions of dollars all collide.
Mm.
And our source material today gives us this stunning, nearly 260-year look at the company. I mean, from its founding in the 18th century right up to its place now as this financial and even technological giant.
And when you say giant, that's not an exaggeration. The scale is almost hard to comprehend.
Well, let's start with the numbers then. Because looking at the data, just a couple of years ago in 2022, Christie's recorded a sale total of 8.4 billion US dollars.
8.4 billion. And that wasn't just a good year for them. That was an all-time high for any auction house globally.
Ever.
Ever. And yeah, the market softened a little bit after that, but even their 2024 revenue was still topping 5.7 billion.
So what does that scale tell you?
It tells you that even with all the economic ups and downs, the market for the absolute rarest, most valuable objects in the world is, well, it's incredibly robust. And it's concentrated in just a couple of major players, like Christie's.
So our mission today is really to pull those figures apart. We want to understand the nuts and bolts of how they do that, how they generate that kind of revenue, the commission structures, their global operations, and, yeah, the big ethical and legal controversies that keep shaping their reputation.
And how a 250-year-old company stays ahead of modern wealth.
Right.
And if you want to see that wealth in, one single moment, you have to look at the transaction that just completely redefined the ceiling of the art market.
The Salvator Mundi moment.
Yeah.
November 15th, 2017. New York.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, tell us the numbers one more time, because even now, they are just staggering.
The sale of Leonardo da Vinci's Salvator Mundi, it landed at a final price of $450.3 million.
Wow.
And that figure, which is critical, includes the buyer's premium, the commission that Christie's gets. It is still to this day the highest price ever paid for a painting.
And who was the buyer?
It was sold to Saudi Prince Badir bin Abdullah Al Saud. That one sale, that one painting, generated more revenue for Christie's than many entire companies make in a year.
It's just such an abstract number, $450 million.
Right.
But it really crystallizes the level of trust and the volume they command. And yet, for all that modernity, the company's origins are, they're deep in 18th century London.
And that's the fascinating part. The story starts with James Christie. The official company history says it was founded in 1766. December 5th was the first sale.
Okay.
But if you dig into the historical sources, you look at old newspaper ads from London, you can actually trace James Christie conducting sales as far back as 1759, maybe 1762.
So 1766 is the official birthday, but the business was already up and running.
Exactly. It was already catering to the huge new wealth of George and England.
So it's a truly British institution, and it's always been anchored to a very specific, very high society part of London.
Precisely. The main headquarters has been on King Street in St. James since 1823.
Wow, since 1823.
That continuity is a huge part of their brand. James Christie the Younger took over from his father, and he made sure the business, the location, stayed right in the heart of the British aristocracy and the wealthy merchant class. They were the customers.
And the ownership structure. I find that really tells you a lot about how the modern art market works. It wasn't always this private empire, right?
Not at all. That transition is so important. For a long time, Christie's was a public company. It was listed on the London Stock Exchange from 1973 all the way to 1999.
And then everything changed.
Everything changed in 1998. Francois Pinault's holding company, Groupe Artemis, came in, bought a big stake, and then bought the rest of it. The whole deal valued the house at $1.2 billion.
So after 99, it goes from being this public company, accountable to shareholders, having to report profits every quarter,
Right.
to being a privately owned piece of one of the world's biggest luxury groups.
Yeah.
What does a change like that let them do?
It gives them immense strategic freedom, total freedom. Since then, they don't have to report their profits publicly. They only publish their sale totals twice a year.
Which means?
It means Artemis can use Christie's not just to make money year to year, but as a long-term strategic tool for wealth preservation, for market influence, for reputation. They can pour money into new markets like Asia or into tech without investors breathing down their necks about a dip in quarterly returns.
So the focus shifted. It wasn't about profit margins anymore.
Not at all. It became about sale volume and sheer cultural power.
So let's talk about that modern operation, this global business of taste and value. I mean, if you're transacting billions, you need an infrastructure that goes way beyond King Street.
Oh, absolutely. Their global reach is, it's genuinely remarkable. It's designed to capture wealth wherever it pops up.
So how many offices are we talking about?
They have offices in 46 countries. But the real high-stakes sales, the critical stuff, that's concentrated in their 8 main sale rooms.
London, New York.
London, New York, of course. Paris, Hong Kong, Milan, Geneva, and now Shanghai and Dubai. This footprint lets them source art from one continent and connect it with buyers on another, all at the same time. Maximizes competition.
And this strategy needs constant tweaking, even in London, their home base. I'm thinking of the closure of their South Kensington sale room in 2017.
That was a really clear strategic signal. South Kensington is for the middle market.
What do you mean by middle market?
Things that sold in the low tens of thousands, not the millions. The decision to close it was part of this big restructuring. They basically said the part of the market was shrinking.
So what did they do?
They pivoted. Christie's decided to focus all its physical energy on the absolute top-end sales at King Street and then aggressively push the middle market onto their online sales platform.
Interesting. So they shed the physical infrastructure for the middle ground.
Exactly. And while they were pulling back in one place, they were doubling down somewhere else. Aggressively.
And that somewhere else is clearly Asia.
Without a doubt. The sources point to this massive, deliberate investment in Hong Kong. This is their big bet on future growth, on where the next generation of billionaire collectors is.
So what are they actually building there?
They're moving their Hong Kong headquarters into this huge, custom-built space in the Henderson Tower. It's over 50,000 square feet.
50,000.
To put that in perspective, that's about the same size as their world-famous historic headquarters in London. They're basically building a second flagship, and they're going to hold auctions there year-round, not just seasonally.
So Hong Kong is becoming a central pillar, not just an outpost.
It's a statement that the center of gravity for high-end collecting is shifting east.
Okay, now let's get into the money. How do they actually turn these massive sales into billions in revenue? It all comes down to the buyer's premium, which, I think most people know is a fee, but the structure it's really complex.
It is. The buyer's premium is how they make their money, and it's basically a progressive, tiered tax that the buyer pays on top of the final hammer price.
A sliding scale.
A sliding scale. And they are constantly fine-tuning it to capture as much revenue as possible, especially from the very top of the market. Back in 2008, for instance, they charged 25% on the first $50,000. By 2013, they'd push that up 25% on the first $75,000.
So they're always adjusting the brackets.
Always.
Let's break down the most recent structure, the one from 2023, because I think if you understand this, you understand their entire monetization machine.
Absolutely. So as of 2023, it works in 3 distinct tiers. First, you pay 26% on the hammer price up to $1 million.
Okay, 26% on the first million.
Then the rate drops to 21% for the portion of the price between $1 million and $6 million.
And then for the really big ticket items.
Everything over $6 million, the buyer pays just 15%.
Wait, hold on. Why does the rate drop for the most expensive part? Wouldn't you want to charge more?
That's the counterintuitive genius of it. The rate per dollar drops, but the total dollar amount in that tier is so enormous. Let's do a quick example. Say a painting sells for $10 million at the hammer.
Okay, $10 million piece.
On that first million, Christie's takes 26%, so that's $260,000.
Right.
Then on the next $5 million, from $1 million to $6 million, they take 21%. That's another $1.05 million. And finally, on that last $4 million, over the $6 million mark, they charge 15%. So that's another $600,000.
So on a $10 million sale, Christie's premium is almost $1.91 million. The buyer is actually paying nearly $12 million.
Exactly. The scale is optimized. It captures a high percentage from the middle, but it still generates enormous total revenue from the top without feeling like it's punishing the billionaires who are their most important clients. It's a beautiful machine.
And beyond the structure, The market itself has changed. What people want is different. Impressionist art used to be the engine of the market in the 80s.
It was. But by 2012, that had been completely supplanted. Contemporary art, so, works from the 1960s onward, became Christie's top category.
And what came after that?
Asian art was third. And that transition just shows you where global wealth is and what a new generation of collectors cares about. They want cultural relevance now, living artists. The value is moving away from the 19th century masters.
And that must tie into this pivot towards what they call curated events.
Yes. If you can't just sell an old master painting and create buzz, you create buzz by building a narrative. These curated events are theme-based. They mix genres, time periods, media.
To tell a story.
To tell a story or to fit a collector's specific aesthetic. It's also a response to falling income from the more traditional, less glamorous auctions. It's about selling a lifestyle, a sophisticated collection, not just historical artifacts.
And then there's the other side of the business, the part we don't see, the private treaty sales.
This is a huge but often invisible part of their business. It speaks to this need for total discretion among the ultra-wealthy.
So how big is it?
Well, these treaty sales jumped 53% in just the first half of 2012. They made up over 18% of their total turnover. When buyers want total privacy, the auction house just acts as an exclusive broker.
Can you give an example?
A key one was the $68 million deal they brokered in 2007 for Thomas Eakins' painting, The Gross Clinic. They moved it to joint ownership between two Philadelphia museums.
Ah, so it's not always private collectors.
Not at all. Discretion, privacy, speed. That's the currency in that market.
Okay, let's get to the fun part, the sheer shock and awe of the sales themselves. We've talked about the Da Vinci, but in the last decade, the prices for contemporary and 20th century art have just exploded.
They really have. The list is just a testament to the competition for true cultural icons. Take Andy Warhol's shot Sage Blue Marilyn.
Right.
It sold in 2022 for $195 million.
$195 million.
And with that one sale, it became the most expensive work of American art and the most expensive piece of 20th century art ever sold at auction.
Just an incredible combination of an iconic artist and an iconic subject.
Exactly. And then you have Picasso, the great European modern master. His painting, Les Femmes d'Alger, sold in 2015 for just under $180 million. And even before that, Francis Bacon's triptych, Three Studies of Lucian Freud, went for $142.4 million in 2013.
And that was a record at the time.
It was, for a short while. The point is, these records aren't outliers. They are constantly being reset by this institution.
It's clear the price for a single painting just keeps going up.
Yeah.
But sometimes the sale of an entire collection is even more significant.
Oh, definitely. When a massive concentration of wealth and cultural capital gets released back onto the market all at once, it's a huge moment.
Like the Paul Allen collection.
The biggest collection sale in history. November 2022, the Microsoft co-founder had an incredible eye, and the whole thing brought in over $1.5 billion.
$1.5 billion. I mean, that's just, it's hard to process. What does a sale like that tell us about the art market's appetite?
It tells us two things. First, that the depth of wealth out there is vast enough to absorb that much art without crashing prices. And second, it shows the intense competition for genuinely rare museum-quality pieces.
And I heard that multiple works went for over $100 million.
Six different works sold for over $100 million each in a single auction series.
Wow. What were some of them?
Well, you had Georges Seurat's pointillist work, La Poseuse Ensemble, which went for $149 million, and Paul Cézanne's landscape, La Montagne Sainte-Victoire, sold for $138 million. These are prices that were, frankly, unthinkable for works from that period until this sale happened.
And where did all that money go?
The proceeds went to various philanthropies, which provides this fascinating contrast to the massive wealth being generated in the room.
And before Allen's collection, there was the Yves Saint Laurent and Pierre Berger collection back in 2009. That was transformative too, but in a different way.
That auction was colossal. It was in Paris over 3 days, and it raised 370 million euros, a record at the time. It really showed that Christie's could monetize a whole aesthetic vision, not just paintings.
Right, it had sculpture, furniture.
It set records across so many categories, for Brancusi, for Matisse, and crucially, for design.
The famous Dragon's Armchair.
Yes, by Eileen Gray. That one share, a piece of 20th century decorative art, sold for 21.9 million euros.
Incredible.
It just shows that if you have scarcity, provenance, and a great story, design can command prices like a minor master painting. These collection sales are so important because they show the auction house can market an entire lifetime of obsession.
But Christie's isn't just about art and furniture. They're the marketplace for anything rare.
Right.
And some of the non-art records are, well, they're the real surprises.
The sheer breadth is extraordinary. Take fossils.
Okay.
In 2020, they sold Stan, one of the most complete T-Rex skeletons in the world, for $31.8 million.
$31 million for a dinosaur.
A world record at the time? And why? Because a perfect T-Rex is this universal cultural item. It combines scarcity, spectacle, and science.
And what about historical documents?
In 2012, they sold George Washington's personal annotated copy of the Acts of Congress,
The one with the Constitution in it.
the one with the Constitution, and a draft of the Bill of Rights. It sold for $9.8 million, a record. Because it wasn't just a document, it was a physical artifact with Washington's own notes on it.
And then you have the memorabilia and luxury space.
Which feeds that same appetite. One of Audrey Hepburn's black Givenchy dresses from Breakfast at Tiffany's sold for almost £500,000.
Wow.
The Oppenheimer Blue Diamond set a record for a jewel in 2016. The Heidi Horton jewelry collection set another record in 2023, bringing in $201 million. It's proof that if an object has a unique story, is incredibly rare, and is linked to cultural icons, Christie's is the place its price will be broken.
Okay, but we have to shift focus now. Because underneath these massive valuations, there's an uncomfortable reality. The history of Christie's is filled with some major ethical and legal challenges.
And this is where it gets really interesting. When you operate at that level, the scrutiny is, it's merciless.
You have to start with the price-fixing scandal.
Yeah.
In 2000, it just pulled back the curtain on the anti-competitive nature of this world.
It was a monumental breach of trust, a spectacular display of illegal collusion. It came out that Christie's and their main rival, Sotheby's, had been secretly conspiring to fix the commission rates they charged sellers.
Which is completely illegal.
Completely. It's designed to eliminate competition and force sellers to accept inflated rates. But the outcome for the two houses was, well, it was drastically different.
And that was all because of how Christie's responded.
It's a textbook case in crisis management, though, ethically murky. Christie's got full immunity from criminal prosecution in the U.S. because they confessed early. They agreed to cooperate fully with the FBI.
So they threw their competitor under the bus.
In a way, yes. A key employee provided evidence, and that left Sotheby's completely exposed.
And what happened to them?
It was devastating for Sotheby's. Their top executives faced criminal charges. Alfred Taubman, the chairman, and Dede Brooks, the CEO, they both got jail time.
Jail time.
Now, both houses paid a huge civil settlement, $512 million, to compensate clients. But the criminal convictions against Sotheby's executives gave Christie's this huge competitive advantage. The public saw them as the ones who had come clean.
And yet, even after that, the criticism continues. The sources talk about an embarrassing history of a lack of transparency around provenance.
And provenance, the documented history of ownership, is the lifeblood of the art market. If that history is murky, the value is poisoned. And the lack of transparency makes it look like the auction house is facilitating the trade of tainted objects.
Let's talk about Nazi-looted art. That's a battleground that just never seems to go away.
It's a continuous liability for them. Back in 2003, Christie's was heavily criticized for refusing to reveal the location of a Gestapo-looted painting. It had belonged to a Jewish banker in Vienna.
So they were shielding the current owners.
They were, until the Jewish community of Vienna filed a successful lawsuit and forced them to disclose it, which led to its restitution.
And this isn't just old history. This happened again very recently in France.
In 2023, a French court ordered Christie's to return a Dutch painting called The Penitent Magdalene. It had been looted in 1942 from a man named Lionel Hauser in Paris.
And Christie's had sold it.
They'd sold it in London in 2005 with no verified provenance. They even tried to settle with the family, offering them half the sale price, but the heirs refused and they won in court. It just shows that these moral and legal obligations, they don't expire.
And beyond wartime looting, there's this ongoing scrutiny over looted antiquities from other parts of the world.
It's a direct result of their global reach. The most notorious case was probably in 2009 with two imperial bronze zodiac sculptures
From the Summer Palace in Beijing.
looted by European forces in 1860. Even though they were part of the famous Yves Saint Laurent collection, China immediately demanded their return as irreplaceable cultural property.
And the problem still happens today. They've had to withdraw items linked to criminals.
Yes. In June 2020, they had to pull 4 Greek and Roman antiquities from a sale because they were linked to convicted traffickers. That same month, they got backlash for selling Igbolusi figures from Nigeria and a Benin plaque
Also tied to looting.
tied to the Benin expedition of 1897 and the Nigerian Civil War. These controversies just show how difficult and risky it is to handle items whose origins are tied to colonial conflict.
And this is so critical that even one of their biggest private sales, the Gilgamesh tablet, ended in a lawsuit from the buyer.
That's right. Hobby Lobby sued them in 2020. They had bought the tablet privately from Christie's in 2014, and they alleged that Christie's sold it with a fake provenance.
So, given all this, what is Christie's official requirement now? How do they try to protect themselves?
Their official line is that they require verifiable documented provenance, showing the object left its source country before the year 2000.
The year 2000.
It's a legal firewall. It's designed to protect them from being accused of handling things that were illegally trafficked after that date. But of course, that completely sidesteps the huge issue of things looted during wartime or colonial periods before 2000, which is why these controversies just keep happening.
Okay, so let's move from those moral challenges to the operational ones. I mean, when you're the custodian of billions of dollars of irreplaceable art, storage itself becomes a massive business.
Which is why they have Christie's Fine Art Storage Services, CFASS, its wholly owned subsidiary. And the scale of their needs is just immense. Their flagship facility is a 250,000 square foot warehouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn.
And this isn't just some warehouse.
Not at all. They spent $30 million converting an old building into a 6-story fortress. It has stringent security, environmental controls, constant 70 degrees, 50% humidity.
The kind of things you need for priceless art.
Essential. But they also have a key facility in London that has something called exempted status.
Okay, pause on that. Why is exempted status so important?
This is a huge piece of global art finance. It allows collectors from outside the EU to store their art indefinitely in the UK without having to pay UK import duties and VAT.
It's a tax haven, basically.
It creates a vast, secure financial hub where art can be held and traded without triggering massive tax bills. It facilitates billions in trade. CFAS is a crucial part of that infrastructure.
But even with all that tech and security, Mother Nature turned out to be their biggest challenge.
Hurricane Sandy in 2012 was a defining operational failure for them. The Brooklyn facility, despite all its features, was right near the water and was hit by the storm surge.
Catastrophic damage.
Absolutely. It led to client defections and a lot of intense legal action.
And the lawsuits claimed gross negligence. What was the basis for that?
In 2013, AXA Art Insurance sued them over damage to a collection. Later that year, another insurer, representing the Leroy Neiman Foundation, filed another lawsuit claiming over $10 million in damages.
And the negligence claim was what?
It centered on whether CFSS had taken adequate preventative steps, even though there were clear warnings about how severe the hurricane was going to be. It just underscored the immense financial liability they have.
So they're battling the physical risks of hurricanes and the historical risks of provenance. In response to that provenance issue, how are they trying to use technology to secure these histories?
They're investing heavily in blockchain technology. It's a direct response to all that criticism about a lack of transparency. They started this back in 2018, offering what they called digital passports or certificates of ownership.
And the idea there is that the record can't be changed later on.
Exactly. Blockchain creates a clear, unchangeable, transparent ledger of ownership that anyone can access. It makes it almost impossible for someone to insert a fake name or a false sale date into an object's history. It's about providing security and rebuilding trust.
And this is accelerating. It's moving from a concept to actual practice.
Yeah.
We saw 2 big auctions in 2024 that showcase this.
Right. In 2024, Christie's New York held 2 critical auctions. First, they sold photographs from the Trevor Traina collection, and they worked with a Web3 wallet provider to link the physical art to digital ownership. Second, and maybe more significantly, they auctioned a piece called Ascend, which is a digital work inscribed on Bitcoin's Ordinals protocol.
So a piece of crypto art.
And it was the first time something like that was sold in a live traditional auction at Christie's. It's a clear signal that they're not just securing physical provenance, they are actively trading in native digital assets now.
That's a huge step. Before we wrap up, we should touch on the shift in their educational arm. They consciously got rid of their expensive degree programs.
Yes, this was a very strategic and very public decision. Christie's Education used to offer these exclusive, very expensive master's degrees. By 2019, they phased them out completely.
And why?
The reasoning was profound. After the big social justice movements, Christie's acknowledged the severe lack of racial diversity in the art world and admitted that their expensive elite degree programs only exacerbated those inequities. They were a financial barrier to entry.
So they got rid of that high-cost path to knowledge.
And they pivoted. They now offer more accessible, non-degree programs like masterclass certificates online and in more locations. It's an explicit attempt to democratize access to the knowledge you need to succeed in their world without the exclusive high-cost barrier.
Okay, so if we try to synthesize this entire 259-year history, what's the big takeaway?
I think what stands out is this profound, almost impossible dichotomy that defines Christie's.
How so?
On one hand, you have this ancient, sophisticated institution generating record-breaking wealth, the $8.4 billion years, the $450 million Da Vinci.
Right.
And on the other hand, it is constantly battling these deep-seated historical and operational liabilities.
It's the juxtaposition.
Uh-huh.
The record-breaking diamond sales set against the fallout from gross negligence during a hurricane.
Or the moral imperative to deal with Nazi-looted art decades after the fact.
Precisely. They survived the price-fixing scandal only because they confessed. And they continually have to fight to maintain credibility over provenance, whether it's antiquities from the Middle East or artifacts from colonial Africa.
So what does this all mean for the future of the market? I mean, the push into blockchain, the huge Hong Kong expansion, it all shows a dedication to modernizing.
It shows a commitment to staying relevant. Christie's knows the next generation of billionaires requires absolute digital security and global liquidity.
Good.
But the recurring scandals emphasize a deeper truth that technology can't just erase. The market value of an object is often inseparable from its traumatic or illicit history. And that tension between profit and conscience, that remains their most persistent challenge. It is the ultimate collision of commerce and conscience, played out on a multi-billion-dollar stage.
Indeed. It forces us all to ask some really critical questions about how we value history itself.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener. Given the scale of global wealth flowing through auction houses like this, and the company's commitment to securing provenance with blockchain, can new technology ever truly reconcile the painful physical history of looted works? Or is this inherent tension between massive profits and ethically murky history, is that just the unavoidable cost of doing business at the highest, most exclusive level of the global art market? It's a question that Christie's and the world's elite collectors are trying to answer with every single hammerfall.